Have you ever wished to be someone who is truly unshakable? Someone who does not collapse under criticism, rejection, loss, or betrayal? Have you ever imagined a day when you finally stop feeling that quiet pain, that constant ache that eats you from the inside, even while you smile and act normal on the outside? Maybe you are exhausted from trying to please everyone, from holding up an image that demands strength every single day, when deep down all you ever wanted was permission to rest for a moment, to breathe without carrying the weight of being untouchable all the time. But listen carefully, because this is something few people dare to say. As long as you try to escape pain, it will keep ruling your life. As long as you numb yourself, hide yourself, or shut down to stay safe, you will remain trapped by everything that happens around you, by words that cut deep, by actions that disappoint you, by silences that hurt more than insults. And this is not a personal failure. It is not weakness. It is the condition of most people. The only difference is that some hide it better than others. Niccolo Machiavelli, one of the most brutally honest thinkers about human nature, understood that people are not shaped by events alone, but by how they learn to respond to power, fear, and reality. And that is where the real door opens. It is not about isolating yourself from the world. It is not about becoming cold, distant, or emotionally armored. It is about awareness. It is about seeing clearly what moves you, what weakens you, and what others can use against you, because real strength is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to remain conscious and steady even while you are hurting, even while something inside you is breaking. If you have reached this point, it is not an accident. This message is for you who are tired of being wounded by everything and everyone. It is for you who feel emotionally exposed, as if others have power over you that you cannot explain. I want you to know it does not have to stay this way, but to change it, you must face truths that may sting at first, and for the first time, that pain may actually free you. You believe that what hurts you exists outside of you, in other people's behavior, in careless words, in abandonment, betrayal, and broken promises. But the truth is harsh. None of those things truly hurt you unless there is already a weakness inside you. What hurts is not the action itself, but how it affects your position, your sense of control, and your inner stability. It is the meaning you attach to it, the story you repeat in your mind. It is old conditioning, unexamined fears, and dependence disguised as loyalty or virtue. Machiavelli observed that people suffer most not because of what happens to them, but because they misjudge human nature and expect fairness where none is promised. That is why one person survives humiliation with composure, while another collapses under a simple remark. It is never just about what happened. It is about where it strikes you and what it threatens within you. And here comes an uncomfortable truth. You suffer so deeply because part of you still believes you can control how others should treat you by being good enough, kind enough, patient enough, or selfless enough. You keep trying to earn safety through behavior. But control over others is limited, and trusting it is dangerous. Machiavelli warned that those who rely on the goodwill of others place their fate in unstable hands. Clinging to this illusion creates constant tension. You try to predict the unpredictable and avoid the unavoidable. If you truly want to suffer less, stop trying to manage people and start managing yourself. What you need is not moral perfection, but clarity. As long as you believe others must change for you to feel secure, you remain dependent on their actions. Freedom begins the moment you understand that nothing outside can destabilize you unless you have already given it leverage inside. That is where the real battlefield exists, within your own mind. What you do not observe, what you refuse to understand, what you avoid confronting, ends up ruling your reactions. Machiavelli understood that those who do not know their own weaknesses will always be mastered by circumstances and by other people. This is why so many live on autopilot, reacting without knowing why, feeling emotions without understanding their source, making choices they later regret or sabotage. The greatest lie you were taught is that you are fully in control of your life. You are not while you remain unaware of the forces that drive you. When hidden impulses guide your decisions, life feels like fate, when in reality it is unexamined habit. The pain you feel, the anger that erupts without warning, the sadness that overtakes you suddenly, none of this is random. These reactions come from parts of you that learned fear, dependence, or submission long ago. Machiavelli wrote extensively about how fear, desire, and survival instincts shape human behavior far more than ideals. You wonder why certain words destroy you while others remain untouched. It is because those words threaten something you rely on for safety or identity, and as long as you do not examine that reliance, you remain vulnerable. Ignored weaknesses do not disappear. They simply wait for the right moment to expose you. Machiavelli understood that denial does not create strength. Awareness does. Judging yourself, suppressing yourself, or pretending you are above pain does not free you. It only drives your reactions into darker and more destructive patterns. Repeated relationships that drain you, cycles of self-sabo. Tage, anxiety that appears when things are calm. This is not bad luck, it is a lack of strategic self-knowledge. Life keeps pressing on the same pressure points until you finally recognize them. If you want to stop being hurt, stop lying to yourself about your nature. As long as you do not understand your own inner mechanics, you will remain reactive, predictable, and easily affected. And the more you try to shield yourself from external threats without strengthening your inner position, the more exposed you become. There is a way out, and it is not emotional armor. It is self-mastery. Becoming untouchable is not about resistance. It is about knowing exactly who you are and what moves you. Most people believe the only way to avoid pain is to shut down. They build walls, wear masks, develop emotional armor, and claim nothing affects them. But inside, they remain fragile because the problem was never feeling pain. It was failing to understand it. True strength is not coldness, it is control. It is the ability to see clearly, respond deliberately, and remain steady under pressure. You do not become untouchable by withdrawing from the world. You become untouchable when nothing inside you can be used against you. When your fears, desires, flaws, and insecurities are acknowledged and understood, you stop reacting blindly and begin acting with intention. That is real power. Machiavelli taught that power begins with self-knowledge, not moral illusion. This is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming grounded in reality. And here is the truth few accept. The more you run from pain, the more it governs you. The more you pretend not to care, the more fragile your position becomes. But when you face your weaknesses directly, when you understand yourself without excuses or self-deception, nothing outside can easily destabilize you. This path requires courage, the courage to look inward without comfort, to drop the masks, to see yourself clearly, because pain is not your enemy, it is information. And when used correctly, it becomes the foundation of real, unshakable strength. Since you were very young, you were taught that suffering means weakness, that crying has no value, that feeling deeply makes you exposed and unsafe. And so you learn to run, you learn to avoid, you learn to deny, but the more you run from suffering, the more it follows you. And the cruel part is that it does not stay the same. It changes shape. It hides itself as anxiety, as anger, as apathy, as boredom, as self-destructive urges that you cannot even explain or understand. Ignored pain never disappears. It only burrows deeper inside you, carving tunnels within your mind and body, until one day, without warning, everything falls apart all at once. Machiavelli saw suffering in a very different light. He understood that pain is a messenger of the inner world, a signal that something within the structure of the self is being ignored or suppressed. To him, inner conflict was never meaningless. It was information. It was pressure revealing truth. He believed that when darkness appears, it should not be rejected blindly, but observed carefully, because it carries knowledge about power, weakness, desire, and fear. But most people do not listen. You silence yourself. You distract yourself. You stay busy. You numb your feelings. You scroll. You consume. You work. You do everything possible to avoid facing what truly matters. And so the real question remains, what is this pain trying to show you? The truth is that suffering hurts so deeply because you are still fighting yourself. There is one part of you that wants to grow, and another part that wants everything to stay the same. There is something inside you calling for change, but your ego, used to control, tries to suffocate that voice. And it is in this inner conflict that pain is born. Because change hurts, growth hurts, letting go hurts, cutting toxic bonds hurts, allowing old identities to die hurts. All of this is grief, an inner process of death and rebirth. Yet it is exactly in this place of inner ruin that something new can begin. Because when everything inside you breaks down, when your certainties collapse, When pain strips you of your defenses, you finally see who you truly are, without protection, without performance, without a mask. And in that moment, suffering becomes meaningful, because it brings you face to face with the only thing that can free you, yourself. Machiavelli understood this dynamic well. He knew that suffering is not a failure of life, it is part of the process of transformation. Pain is not the end, it is the beginning of strategic awareness. Most people turn back before crossing that dark valley. They escape, they distract themselves, they rush back to the surface. But if you are still here, it is because you are ready to cross. And what follows is understanding how this crossing happens, how this inner confrontation, no matter how lonely or uncomfortable it feels, is what finally leads to freedom. So let us continue, because it goes deeper now. Very few people have the courage to even begin this journey of inner mastery, and even fewer have the courage to complete it. Because this road offers no comfort, it gives no guarantees, and it does not protect your ego, it dismantles it. Machiavelli believed that true power begins when illusions collapse. Becoming who you truly are first requires unlearning who you pretended to be, and that can hurt more than rejection from others, because you begin to realize that much of what defined you was never real strength. You are not your achievements, you are not your wounds, you are not the image you constructed to be accepted, respected, or feared. All of those were strategies for survival, and survival is not the same as living with authority over yourself. This path is life calling you beyond mere survival. It begins when everything you avoided, denied, or buried starts to rise to the surface. This process demands the destruction of the mask, the social role, the false self built to manage appearances. In simple words, you must strip away the armor you used to hide, and it is through this difficult process that you become untouchable. Not because nothing affects you anymore, but because you have already passed through the fire, you have faced your inner enemies. You have looked directly at your fear, your shame, your hunger for approval, your anger, and said, "I see you, and you no longer control me." This inner clarity, this awareness of your own darkness, gives you a strength that does not depend on praise, validation, or dominance. You no longer need everyone to approve of you. You no longer need to win every argument. You no longer need to perform strength, because you know who you are, and that knowledge cannot be taken from you. Real emotional armor is not a rigid shell. It is a stable core. It is the integration of all your inner forces into a center of control that remains steady even under pressure. You still feel pain, but it does not break you. You may be wounded, but you do not lose yourself, because you no longer react blindly. You respond with intention. You stop living only on the surface and begin to operate from depth. But depth comes with a price: loneliness. Not because you are abandoned, but because very few people are willing to confront themselves. Most remain trapped in appearances and fear of feeling, and as you free yourself, you naturally grow apart. This distance is not rejection, it is evolution. You do not step away out of arrogance. You step away because you no longer belong where you once hid. And this brings us to the final truth of the journey: awareness as protection. Because it is not raw strength that shields you, it is clarity. And this must be understood fully. Conscious awareness is the only state where nothing has unconscious power over you. So let us complete this crossing together. We are almost there. Now listen carefully. Nothing, absolutely nothing, will protect you from external suffering if you remain unconscious of what is happening inside you. Words will continue to hurt. Rejection will continue to sting. Loss will continue to shake you until you wake up. And awakening is not a dramatic event, it is a daily decision. It is choosing to look inward even when it is uncomfortable. It is taking responsibility for what you feel without blaming others, the past, or fate. Machiavelli understood that what you fail to confront will always rule you. What you refuse to see will continue to control your reactions. For your entire life, you resisted the fear of not being enough, the emptiness of rejection, the ache of loneliness, the pain of being unseen. And so you hid. You silenced yourself. You tried to control outcomes. You tried to be perfect. You tried to be invulnerable. And this struggle has brought you here, tired, drained, and exhausted from fighting both the world and yourself. But now you see that true emotional immunity is not hardness. It is awareness. It is not about building armor. It is about expanding consciousness. Because when you understand your triggers, your patterns, your wounds, the actions of others lose their power to destroy you. You still feel deeply, but you do not drown. You still suffer, but you do not disappear. And that changes everything. What protects you is not hiding from life. It is entering it fully. Those who live only on the surface are wounded by every wave. Those who dive deep discover silence, stability, and strength below. And that is where you are going. When you begin to live from integration, presence, and awareness, the world may try to break you, but it no longer finds where to strike. And if something inside you has shifted, if this message touched a place within you, write in the comments, "I choose awareness." Let us begin a movement of people who no longer want to survive by pretending to be strong, but who choose to live with truth, clarity, and inner power. And remember, the next video continues this journey. You must keep going, because real transformation only begins when you refuse to stop at the first step. See you there.